Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and you've come to the video tutorial for video number 6. This is called Dutchy Too by Ineke Mooijenkind, and it looks similar to what we did last week, but the outer portion is definitely different than what we've done before. I'm actually going to work this in shades of brown to help differentiate from last week's square for you. And just as a reminder, if you're joining this video for the first time or the first of these videos of the Friends Around the World 3 Crochet Along for 2018, it's okay if you start with this square. It really doesn't matter which square you start with. There are going to be many of these, and you'll be able to find them as they are released from week to week. All the information you need is in the video description. Should you want to join our social media links and show your work and see what others are doing as well, I really encourage you to do that. Okay, for this project, you are going to need these yardages, if you can see that, of the different colors, should you choose to do 3 colors. Now, you may choose to do more colors, you may choose to do fewer colors, or you may choose to do a solid color. It's all up to you, and just this is a good opportunity to let those creative juices flow. Okay, now I also want to encourage you to check out the links below so that you can download this free crochet pattern, and check out the other links that are there so that you can get to know Ineke and some of the other designers that are going to be featured in this project from week to week. Some of the other things you're going to need to work this square. By the way, the yarn that I mentioned, the yardages on, that's going to be worsted weight yarn. I want to be clear about that. Worsted weight is also referred to as Aran weight, usually in the UK and other parts of Europe. You're going to need a size H or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook. And I'm highly recommending that you use a yarn needle because we're going to have lots of loose ends to be hidden. And I also recommend a pair of scissors if you could have those handy. Let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who did the square Dutchy, this square entitled Dutchy Too, spelled T-O-O, will find that I think it's going to be a little bit easier for you because you've had some practice on the first one. We're going to start the first round with a magic circle, and I do my magic circle like this. I just wrap the yarn around my fingers twice. Now, if you have a special or even a better way of doing a magic circle, feel free to use that by all means. Okay, I'm going to pull a loop up, and I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to just be very careful with this, and I'm going to work 8 half double crochets right into this magic ring or magic circle, whatever you choose to call it. So go ahead and work 8 half double crochets. After completing those 8 half double crochets, I'm going to make this circle a little tighter, and I'm going to do that by doing this. I'm just giving it a little pull. If you stick your finger in there, it kind of helps those yarns to kind of come together a little bit better. Okay, so now I've done that, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the first half double crochet of that round with a slip stitch, just like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and fasten off. Now, if some of you want to use the hidden join, that's absolutely fine. Just to explain why I'm not using them is because most of what I'm working here is going to actually cover up the join, so it's not really showing. So I'm just going to do it's a little bit easier for me right now, and do that. If you have, again, other techniques, that's absolutely fine. Go ahead and employ those. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off and cut that strand. I always like to leave extra long strands because it makes it easier to hide later with that yarn needle. Okay, so let's go on to round number 2. Now we're ready to make a standing puff stitch. I've gone ahead and made my slip knot in my color number 2, which is the dark brown. I'm going to insert my hook. I am going to bring that through. I'm going to give it a little chain. Now, before we begin the standing stitch, we don't wrap the hook the first time. We stick the hook in, bring up a loop, yarn over, and we do that 3 more times. So we're actually inserting our hook into the space 4 times, and we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There should be 8 loops of yarn on your hook. Yarn over, pull through all loops, and go ahead and give it a chain. This chain just acts to secure the puff stitch. It does not count as a chain. Now we're going to chain 1 after that, and we're going to work a regular puff stitch in the next stitch, and then the rest of the half double crochets around. So we do that by wrapping the hook first and then inserting the hook in the loop, bringing up a loop, and that's 1. I'm going to do that 4 times. 2, 3, 4. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on each on the hook for the other puff stitches here. Pull them all the way through. Go ahead and give it a chain to tie that stitch together, and then chain 1. And so go ahead and do that all the way around. I'll do one more for you. Wrap the hook, insert, pull up a stitch, and do that 3 more times. Okay, so you have 9 loops on that hook. Yarn over, pull it through, chain, and then give it a chain 1. So go ahead and finish working that all the way around. After I've made my last puff stitch and that chain 1 to follow, I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the first puff stitch of the round, and I'm going to fasten off because I'm going to be changing colors. Okay, after I've done that, I'm going to go ahead, and the instructions do say to secure these ends. We've got plenty of them to secure. I encourage you highly to heed the advice of Ineke and do this, because I found with the first of her designs that it was very helpful to have all these strings hidden. It makes it easier to see where you're working, and you don't have to look forward to doing this later on. So go ahead, and you can hide these loose strands under the puff stitches very easily. I'm going to go ahead and do this around, just showing those of you who maybe never have used a needle in this way. And then clip carefully. Make sure that you do not clip your work as you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and hide these other 3 strands, and then we'll start round number 3. Just one more quick tidbit about hiding these threads. Make sure that as you're hiding the different colors, that you hide them under the colors of the yarn, that you crocheted with them, if that makes any sense. I know that sounds, I'm being Captain Obvious here on some of this, but, for those of you who've never worked with multicolored projects before, may not realize, to do that. So I just wanted to go ahead and add that tidbit into, how to hide these loose ends. Now we're beginning round 3, and I'm going to use color 3, which is going to be this lighter tan color, and we're going to, reading the pattern, starting with a standing single crochet in any chain 1 space. So I'm just going to pick this one, and starting with the standing single crochet, I'm going to go ahead and make my little slip knot and bring that up, and my chain 1, go ahead and put that single crochet there. And then after we do that standing crochet in that chain 1 space, we're going to do 2 single crochets in the same space. So 2 more, 1, 2. If you get a chance, you can even crochet like I did, crochet over this little tail here of the yarn, and kind of will help secure that a little bit further. After working those 3 single crochets in that chain 1 space, we're going to work a front post single crochet. And the way you do that is we're going to take our hook, go all the way around this puff stitch, okay, and then we bring up a loop. So we have 2 loops on, just like we would for a regular single crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2, and that is your front post single crochet. And then we're going to do, this is the repeat, 3 single crochets and the next chain 1 space, and then a front post single crochets by working it around this puff stitch. So go ahead and do that all the way around. One more time. 3 single crochets in the chain 1 space, and then 1 front post single crochet around the puff stitch. This repeat ends with a front post single crochet around that last puff stitch, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet of that round. Okay, we are not going to fasten off because we are going to keep the same color for round number 4. At the end of this round here, you should have 8 front post single crochets and 24 single crochets around. Okay, for round number 4, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and the chain 3 does count as a double crochet. We're going to work 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, and then a double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. And we're going to do that 8 times all the way around. I'll do the repeat again. 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, 3. I'll do that one more time. 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 in the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Now let me let you see that without my thumbs being in the way. So go ahead and work that all the way around. For the last repeat, we're going to work 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 in the next 2, because that chain 3 actually counts as that 3rd stitch, and we now have 40 stitches total, again counting that chain as a double crochet. We're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain, and go ahead and fasten off and give the yarn a clip, and go ahead and hide the loose strands. Round number 5 begins with a standing front post treble. So let me go ahead and get my slip knot ready for this. It's going to be a little tricky, but let me show you the way I like to do these. Okay, before I bring my slip knot through, I'm actually going to hold this yarn back like this and double wrap. I'm going to bring the whole thing through like this. Okay, now we're making front posts, so I need to go around again in front and bring up another loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And there's my standing treble crochet. We're going to work these treble crochets around each stitch. So we're going to have a total of 40 when we're finished. That's including the first stitch. So go ahead and work those front post treble crochets all the way around. Round 5 ends with a slip stitch, but it's going to be a little different. We're working it through the top loops of that first standing treble, and then we're also going to work through the 2 loops where that stitch was joined. We're going to do a slip stitch, and that ends round number 5. Now you can just hold off on hiding this loose end for a while because we're going to stick with the same color. Going on to round 6, we're going to chain 1, and this actually is going to begin folding this part around and connecting it to the row behind. I'll show you how to do that, and therefore, you know, giving this a really nice raised effect, nice raised texture. Okay, so for the next stitch, we're going to work, put your hook through those first 2 loops, and then the next 2 loops of the row before that. Pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. We're working single crochets through the next 2 loops and the stitch behind it. Pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through. The next stitch, yarn up, pull through 2. So we're going to work single crochets all the way around, and you should have a total of 40 single crochets once you finish this round. So I work this all the way around with the single crochets. Then I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet, which is right here, and go ahead and fasten off and hide those loose ends. This is what you should have at the end of 6 rounds. And I'll show you the back side. Now we're ready to start round 7, and I am changing back to color number 2, which is my dark chocolate color. I'm going to go ahead and make a slip knot. Go ahead and make that a little bit tighter. There we go. And I can join in any of these single crochet stitches. I'm going to join with a standing single crochet. Go ahead and make that single crochet. And it says to work 2 single crochets in the next stitch and then single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So that's going to be a repeat, and I'm going to go ahead and try to hide this strand as I go. So the repeat is 2 single crochets in the next stitch and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. Let's do that again. 2 single crochets in the next stitch and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. And you should do that 8 times all the way around. For that last repeat, we're going to have 2 single crochets in that next stitch and then 1 in the next 3 stitches. And mathematically, because the first stitch of the round that we did actually goes with that grouping, and that should give you a total of 48 single crochets. Okay, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, but do not fasten off because we're going to stick with this color for the next round. For this next round, we are going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in that same stitch where we joined. And this is where we start to square the circle off. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches. We're going to work 4 treble in the next stitch and then 5 treble in the stitch that follows that. So let's go ahead and work those 4 trebles after we skip those 2 stitches. And now we're going to work 5 treble in the next stitch. And that's 4 and 5. I'm going to just take some time to verify. So we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you can see that corner. I know the yarn is dark. Hopefully you can see that. After that corner, we are going to skip 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then we are going to single crochet in the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and that is the repeat that we're going to do 4 times. I'll do that one more time with you. Skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then work 4 treble crochets in the next stitch. Okay, so we have 4 there. And then we're going to work 5 trebles in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to skip 2 stitches. Okay, 1, 2, and then we're going to work single crochets in the next 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is what we have so far, and so you just need to go ahead and do that 2 more times. On that last repeat, you'll only be single crocheting 5 single crochets, and then join with a slip stitch to that very first standing single crochet of the round, and we are to fasten off and to secure our ends. So let's go ahead and take the time to do that. So now we're ready to begin round number 9, which we're going to start with our color number 1. I'm going to go ahead and make my slip knot because I'm going to be making a standing front post treble crochet, and I'm going to make that around the last treble of these in any of the shell stitches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a chain 1 here, and then wrap the hook 2 times, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so now I have my standing front post treble, and I'm going to bring this thread to the back because that's where that's going to be woven in. After we do that, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to skip the next 6 stitches, which were those 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to jump over to the next fan corner, and we're going to treble crochet around the next 9 stitches. And that is actually going to be our repeat, but I'm going to go ahead and do this one with you because this can be just a little tricky. Let me go ahead and finish these 9 front post trebles. After finishing those 9 front post trebles, this is going to curve in a little bit on you, but that's okay because this is actually going to go back and be connected the next round and look something like this in the corners. So don't worry about it if it's too tight or just seems a little weird right now. Okay, now we're going to chain 6 more stitches. We're going to skip the next 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to work a front post treble in each of the next 9 stitches, and that actually is your repeat. So go ahead and repeat that all the way around. When you get to the last shell, you're actually only going to work 8 front post trebles because the first treble of that series was already worked with the first standing front post treble crochet. At the end of this round, we join with a slip stitch to that first standing treble crochet of the round, and we're going to fasten off, but we're not going to hide the strands just yet. We're going to wait till after the next round to do that. So this is what you should have. It's a little weird there right now, but don't worry, that weirdness is going to go away after that next round. To begin round 10, we're starting back with color number 2, which is the darker color for me. And we're going to find the 6th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single crochet. And we're going to work a standing half double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and get my slip knot. Okay, and before I do that, we're also going to be working through the front loop of that chain. Okay, so we pull those through. I'm going to go ahead and give it a chain. I'm going to work a half double crochet there. Now for the next 9 stitches, we're going to be working through 4 loops. These 2 loops, and then the 2 loops on the stitches back behind there. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to work 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the next stitch. We're going to do that 4 times. So 1, 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then 1. And so see, I just want you to see that I have 4 loops there, 2 loops from the row number 9, and then 2 loops from row number 8. I'm crocheting those together. So 2 stitches, 2 single crochets, then 1. And we're going to do 2 single crochets, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet, crocheting these 2 rows together, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 in the next. I'm doing this total of 4 times. 2 single crochets, then 1, and then let's go back to the pattern, and then 2 single crochets in that next, or the 9th treble of that corner. Actually front post treble to be exact. Okay, now when we get to the chain and the single crochet area, we're going to work half post double crochets. We work through that single crochet, and we also work 1 with the chain. Let's go ahead and get all the fibers through. There we go. So through that single crochet and the front loop of the chain. This is a little bit tricky, so make sure that you don't rush through this part of it. It really does make a nice effect, nice texture, adds a lot to the square. I think it's kind of important that you do it correctly in order to get that effect though. So, alright, so just getting 1 loop of that chain. So the back should look like this. You should see just the other remaining loop of that chain. I think otherwise, if you tried to go over the entire chain, I think you're going to have that white showing through this color, and that's not going to be good. Okay, now we get to the next corner. And we're just going to go ahead and do what's repeated in the parentheses at this point. So we'll start off, again, 2 single crochets, single crocheting these 2 rows together. And then we crochet 1 single crochet in the next set of loops there. 2. And then 1, 2, and then 1, 2 single crochets, crocheting all 4 of those loops together, and then 1, and then for that last treble and single crochet, we crochet 2. And again, with the half double crochets worked into that single crochet and the first loop, or the front loop of that chain. Do that 6 times. And make sure that you crochet your chains in a slightly relaxed way. You don't want to crochet that chain 6 back on row number 9 too tightly, because that could make row 10 really, really hard to do. So actually I probably could have made my chains a little more generous, but I'm going with it. But just if you tend to crochet tightly, make sure that you are, generous, or at least that the chain is the same distance as the row of single crochets below that. So this is what it should be looking like. So go ahead and finish that the rest of the way around the square, and just know that when you get to this side, you're only going to have 5 half double crochets to work on, because the 6th one was already worked as the first stitch. At the end of round 10, we're going to join with the slip stitch to that first standing half double crochet of the round, and I'm going to fasten off, and make sure you leave a nice strand, and go ahead and hide the loose ends after this round is completed. This is what you should have. Now we're ready to move on to round number 11, and I want you to go ahead, pick any of the sides, and you want the last half double crochet of what we worked in the last round. And I've gone ahead and made my slip knot. We're going to work a standing single crochet. I'm going to go ahead and give it my little chain there, and I'm going to single crochet. Now we're going to single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and as you can see, I am crocheting over my thread there so that I don't have to spend too much time hiding it at the end of this round. Now I'm going to half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. After that, we're going to work 2 double crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet in the next stitch. So let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2 double crochets. Now I'm going to chain 2. We are forming a corner here, and in the next stitch we'll work 2 more double crochets. 1, 2, and then after that we're going to do half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. I'm still working over that loose thread, and since I've already worked it over a bunch of times, I'm going to go ahead and very carefully give it a clip. Now we're going to work single crochets in the next 14 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and work those 14 stitches. After working those 14 single crochets, we get to the asterisk, and it says to repeat the information in between the 2 asterisks 3 more times, and the last time it says to omit the last 5 single crochets from the final repeat. What that means is, as you work across this side towards the end, you're not going to do 14, you're going to do 14 minus 5, which would be 9, so you're only going to work 9 single crochets across that side. I'll go ahead and do this repeat with you one more time because it was a little complicated. Alright, so we're going to single crochet, let's see, half double crochet, that's where the asterisk begins. Half double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and now we're going to form our corner. We're going to work 2 double crochets in the next stitch, chain 2, and we're going to work 2 double crochets in the next stitch after that, just like that. And then we're going to work half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and then we're going to work single crochet in the next 14 stitches. So go ahead and work that repeat all the way around. At the end of this round, after you've worked those 9 single crochets, go ahead and join with a slip stitch to the standing single crochet of the round, and go ahead and fasten off. We're going to change colors at the end of this round, and so go ahead and take the time now to hide those loose ends. Okay, we're going to begin round number 12, and we're going to start with a standing half double crochet in any stitch before the chain 2 corners. So any of those that you want to select is fine. Go ahead and do our slip knot. I'm going to do my chain, and I'm going to do my half double crochet. And after we do that, in each chain 2 space, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more half double crochets in that same space. Now as we go across, we're going to half double crochet in each of the next 22 stitches. So go ahead and half double crochet all the way across until you get to that next corner. Once we crochet those half double crochets, 22 of them, all the way across, and then we repeat what's inside the asterisk in the pattern, which is 2 half double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more half double crochets in the next corner. So go ahead and repeat this all the way around the square. On this last repeat, you're only going to have 21 half double crochets because the first half double crochet there that was worked counts as the 22nd one. And we're going to go ahead and join with a slip stitch, and we're going to fasten off, and we're going to go ahead and hide the loose strands before we begin the next round. So go ahead and do that now. Now to begin round 13, I'm going to be using color number 2, and I've already got my slip knot ready. And we're going to join in any chain 2 corner of the square. And we're going to start out with a standing half double crochet in that chain 2 space, and we're going to do 4 more in that same spot. Okay, after we do that, we should have a total of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those half double crochets. Now, going across, we're going to work 26 back post double crochets across. Now, don't forget, this first one is a little tough. As we come around, make sure I just want to make sure that you don't forget that first stitch, which sometimes can be covered by the multiple stitches in the corner. So that one does count in our stitch count. And go ahead and work those back post double crochets. And this is kind of a neat effect that Ineke has designed here. You end up, it looks like you have a chain going across the surface of your work. So this might be something that some of you may want to try, you know, in future designs, if you want it to look like you're embellishing it with a stitch on the surface. What's really nice about this is it's perfectly straight across, as where sometimes when you try to embellish things with a yarn needle and yarn, sometimes it's just really hard to get it that perfect. So go ahead and work those 26 back post double crochets all the way across. After working those 26 back post double crochets, we're just going to work 5 half double crochets in the chain 2 corner, and that will be your repeat all the way around the square. So you have 5 half double crochets in the corners, and then back post double crochet across each stitch across the sides, and that would give you 26 stitches across each side. At the end of this round, we join with a slip stitch to that first standing half double crochet, and go ahead and fasten off and hide your loose ends, and then we will begin round number 14. This is what you should have at the end of round 13. Okay, now we're ready to start round 14, and you can start in any side, but make sure you're in the last back post double crochet of that side before the corner. I'm going to be using color number 1, and I've gone ahead and made my slip knot, and I'm going to go ahead and do a standing half double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1. Now we're going to be working the corner. We're going to be working something called a front post double crochet 2 together. Actually, the name of that stitch is probably a lot longer and more complicated than the actual stitch. So if we just get ready to do a front post double crochet, yarn over, and just pull through 2, and do that again on the next stitch. Just like you start working front post double crochets, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook, and go ahead and chain 1. Now we're going to do that a couple more times, actually 3 more times. We're going to use the last stitch that we just worked in, make that first beginning of that front post double crochet 2 together, and then the next stitch, yarn over, pull through all 3, chain 1, and we're going to do that actually 2 more times. I'm going to go ahead and wrap our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 and chain 1, and then 1 more time using that last stitch that we just worked in, and then the next stitch, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops and give it a chain 1. So you should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 of the front post double crochet 2 togethers, and then a chain 1 in between all of those stitches there. So that's what you're going to do for each corner, and this is what we're going to do along the side. We're going to skip the first stitch, half double crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch, half double crochet in the next stitch. We're going to do that a total of 12 times, working across each side. After that 12th repeat of the half double crochet, chain 1, we're going to skip a stitch and half double crochet in that last back post double crochet from the previous round, and then we chain 1, and then we're going to repeat that corner again. I'll do that for you one more time. The first half of that front post double crochet 2 together, and then the second half of that stitch, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, chain 1, and then we're going to use that last stitch again for that first half of that stitch, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, chain 1. I'm going to do that 2 more times using that last stitch used. First part of that front post double crochet 2 together, and that's the second half, yarn over, pull through all 3, and the last one. Chain 1, and then we go back to working the half double crochets. We skip the first stitch, half double crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, etc. So go ahead and work that all the way around your square. At the end of this round, we end by working a slip stitch to the first standing half double crochet of the round, and go ahead and fasten off and secure your ends. Now to begin round 15, we're going to be starting in the chain 1 space that's before the corner stitches, before that first crochet front post 2 double crochet together stitches, which was right here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with the standing single crochet in that space. I'm going to go ahead and get my slip knot ready. And my single crochet in that same spot. Now the pattern says to single crochet again in that same space. So we're going to have 2 single crochets in that space. We're going to skip the double crochet 2 together here, and we're going to work 2 single crochets in that chain 1 space. Okay, after we do that, we're going to skip the next stitch here, and we're going to work 3 single crochets in this space, which I believe is going to be the corner. Okay, after we do that, we're going to work 2 single crochets in the next chain 1 space. We're going to skip the next 2 double crochets together, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in that chain 1 space, and then we're going to do it again. We're going to skip this stitch, and we're going to work 2 single crochets in that space, and that is how you're going to work the corners. After completing this corner area, we're going to work a single crochet in that next chain 1 space. We are skipping this stitch, single crochet in that chain 1 space, and then we're going to work a double crochet down in the space, this stitch here that was skipped on round 13, right down below, just like that. We're going to skip this half double crochet, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and then double crochet going down 2 rows below. That's to round 13. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and a double crochet in that stitch, which was actually a back post double crochet below. Okay, go ahead and do that. You should do that 12 times across the row. After working that 12 times across, this is what you should have. Now we come to the next corner, and we go ahead and go back. Actually, before we do that, we're finishing out the sentence for row 15. We're going to work 2 single crochets in the next chain 1 space. We're going to skip the next DC2 together, and then we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next space, and we're going to skip the next DC2 together, and we're going to work 3 single crochets. Now at this point where we're working 3 single crochets in that corner, that actually brings you back to the asterisk again, where you just skipped this stitch and then worked 3 single crochets in the next chain 1 space. Then we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets together and work 2 single crochets in the next, and then skip this stitch again, and then 2 more stitches, and then that brings us back to working across the edge, where we're going to work a single crochet in the next chain 1 space. We've skipped this stitch, and then a double crochet going down to round 13 and working in that unused stitch there. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in that chain 1 spot, and then go down to round 13 and double crochet in that unused stitch, and just go ahead and do that all the way across, and actually repeat all the way around. Row 15 ends with a slip stitch to the first single crochet of the round. Okay, and we are now to fasten off and secure our ends, so let's go ahead and do that. Round 16 begins. We're going to be using color number 3, which is my light brown color, and it begins in the second single crochet of any corner 3. So right in that middle stitch, we're going to go ahead and start with a standing half double crochet. Go ahead and get my slip knot ready. And go ahead and do that half double crochet. Then we're going to do a chain 2 and then another half double crochet. Whoops, go ahead and make that a half double, not a double crochet. Now we're going to half double crochet in each stitch across, and you should have 34 stitches as you go across for this. And as you see, I'm going to go ahead and hide that loose end as I go. So go ahead and work those 34 half double crochets. After working those 34 half double crochets from here all the way across, that should bring you to the middle single crochet of that next corner, and go ahead and work the corner with a half double crochet, chain 2, and another half double crochet, and that's going to be your repeat all the way around. 34 half double crochets across, and then half double crochet, chain 2, half double crochet in those corners. So go ahead and work that all the way around. At the end of round 16, you're going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round, and go ahead and fasten off and secure your ends. I want to give you a good view of what I have at this point. Of course, you know it's not blocked or anything, but once it is blocked, this is going to look really nice, or it may not even need blocking. We'll see. I'm going to be using color number 1. This is, again, round 17, and I'm going to make a little slip knot because I'm getting ready to make another standing half double crochet, and I'm doing that in the chain 2 corner. Any corner will do. Let's go ahead and do that half double crochet, and I'm going to chain 2 and do another half double crochet in that same space. Okay, now the next step, I'm going to start working in the back 2 loops on half double crochets. You have the back loop here, and then there's another loop right behind it. So we're going to make, let's go ahead and loop my hook there, half double crochet in each stitch in across, but make sure you grab those 2 loops that are in the back. Let me loop my hook again. So we're using that front loop. We're not using that front loop, but you see the back loop, and then there's that 3rd loop. And I don't know about you, but I really appreciate being able to read somebody else's pattern every now and then. I learn so much from doing that, and I especially enjoy the color work and someone telling me when to change the colors and what color to change to. I think that really makes it more of an enjoyable experience, so I'm not going to have to work too hard in designing. You know, the designing work has been done as far as the color goes and the stitching, so I hope you're getting something out of that. I hope you can enjoy that as much as I am. So we're just going to work these half double crochets, working in the back loop and then the 3rd loop that's behind there, and we're going to work that all the way across. And then when we get to the corner, chain 2 space, of course we're not going to be working in back loops because we're just working in the chain. We're going to work a half double crochet, chain 2, half double crochet there. So I'm going to have you just go ahead and do that all the way around. At the end of the round, go ahead and join with a slip stitch to that first half double crochet and give it a chain, and go ahead and fasten this off. And you want to go ahead and hide those loose ends. Let's go ahead and take another look at what we have at this point. We have 1 more row of the regular pattern to complete the square, and then we'll have 3 finishing rounds that bring this square to the same size as all the other squares in the crochet along. Okay, row 18 calls for color number 2, which would be my dark color, but since I am using this dark color for the last 3 rounds, I'm going to go ahead and change it up just a little bit. This is just what I'm doing personally. If you can choose whichever color you want, but the pattern does call for color number 2. I'm going to actually use color number 3 just for my design so that I can show off this color again and contrast it with the color that I'm using to finish it off. Anyway, we're going to use a standing half double crochet, and we're going to work this. You can work this in any of the chain 2 corners. Go ahead and make your half double crochet, chain 2, and then work another half double crochet. And this is very much like the last row we did. We are working back loop half double crochets where we grab that back loop and that added 3rd, if I can get it there, it's a little tricky. There you go. And the 3rd loop as well. So we're just going to work in those back 2 loops in half double crochet all the way across, and the chain 2 corners are going to be half double, chain 2, half double crochet, and the stitch count all the way across should be 38 stitches from the first back loop half double until you get to the corner. So 38 on each side plus the half double, chain 2, half double corner. So go ahead and work that all the way around. At the end of round 18, go ahead and join with a slip stitch to that first stitch, fasten off, and you're going to need to hide the loose ends. If you're reading the pattern, that does appear to be the end, but there's actually 3 more rounds that we need to do in order to make this the proper size if you're doing the throw Afghan project. Let's go ahead and hide these loose ends, and then I'll show you the next 3 rounds. Okay, now before we do the last 3 rounds, I want to draw your attention to the fact that there is a document that you can download. You're going to have to follow the links with the blog post that will tell you where you can go further to download this document. And these are called the base rounds for joining. And this is mostly if you're going to do the entire throw Afghan project. Okay, now for Dutchy Too, we're going to be using set F rounds. There are 3 rounds, and I'm going to go through them with you. So if you don't have the time or not able to download this document, but you want to depend upon the videos, that's actually quite fine too. I'm going to get you through the next 3 rounds, and you'll find they're very easy. Okay, for my final rounds, I'm actually going to be using color number 2, but you can use whichever color you would like to join the squares together. Okay, I've mentioned before in another video, I'm using the dark color because it tends to hide a multitude of sins. It tends to hide a lot of things that, you know, that can come up when joining squares, because that's generally where any imperfections are going to be shown. And with the dark color, they will be hidden a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to join with a single crochet here. Go with my slip knot. And I'm going to single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in that chain 2 corner. You can again join in any chain 2 corner. Now you want to be careful that we single crochet in the first stitch of this round, which is right here. It can sometimes get hidden, but it is part. If I can get it through, there we go. It is part of our stitch count. So you're going to work 40 single crochets all the way across. After going all the way across, there are 40 stitches. Yay! It's always a good feeling when your stitch count is on. Now, if the stitch count is slightly off, I'm going to show you what you can do in the next round. You can always just sneak in an extra stitch here and there as you go along. I promise nobody will notice it, but if you do it in the next round where the color change will not accentuate the additional stitch, I promise you nobody will know, and I won't tell anybody if you won't. Okay, so now we get to the corner, and we just do the single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet, and that is your repeat all the way around. Just single crochet in each of the 40 stitches across, and then the chain 2 corner, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Go ahead and finish that round. At the end of this round, go ahead and join with a slip stitch in that first single crochet. Now if you're using a different color, you can go ahead and fasten off. I'm going to have you do something a little different so that you don't have to fasten off and rejoin the yarn again. Just go ahead and do a slip stitch like this into that chain 2 corner, chain 1, and we're going to begin round 2. And we're going to start with a single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet in that corner. And after that, we're going to single crochet in the next 42 stitches. So it's going to be just like the last round we did, except you're going to have 42 stitches all the way across. And once you get to the corner, again, you just do a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So go ahead and work that all the way around. At the end of round 2 of the finishing rounds, we're just going to join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet of the round. Now you can fasten off and change to another color, or you can just do what I'm doing and just continue on. And instead of fastening off and rejoining, I'm just going to slip stitch into the next chain 2 corner, which is right here. Now just remember when you come back around that this is a slip stitch and that's not a stitch to be worked in. So if I chain 1, and I'm going to work 2 single crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more single crochets in that same space. Now that is a little bit different than before. Now because of those 4 that are there, you're going to have to pull back and find this hidden stitch. Sometimes it hides under there. So after you do that, go ahead and slip stitch, single crochet rather, in each stitch across. Now there should be 44 stitches that where you put the individual single crochets all the way across. And then when you get to the corner, you're going to make another 2 single crochets, chain 2, 2 single crochets. And by doing so, when you add the 44 stitches that work across here, plus the 2 stitches in this corner and the 2 stitches in the other corner, you'll get a total of 48 stitches across each side. And this is the last round that we're working to complete our square. So go ahead and finish working that all the way around. At the end of this round, we're just going to join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet that we worked in the corner, and go ahead and fasten off and cut a generous strand so that you can hide it easily with our yarn needle. So here's our finished product, Dutchy Too. I hope you liked this project. If you did and want to see more good content coming your way, please hit that subscribe button, and we'll have more videos for these squares in the series, as well as many other things coming your way. God bless. Bye-bye.